Right.
Dhanvas Maharaj,
Dhanvas Prabhuji.
how are you?
I'm going on, you know.
Yes,
As is,
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Maharaj, for today taking out some time. And the reason as I was mentioning earlier, that I wanted to create a series of podcasts with you, which we will discuss what is religion and what is the benefit of religion or spiritual life. We will talk about in coming podcasts. We'll go into depth, more into depth, or into religion. Especially in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, because that's what we follow, and how what is how it can benefit us. What is the long term benefit? And I think what I'm seeing at the moment in the society, the way the society is going at the moment, what we see around us, that what has caused it, and how this is my main purpose, that we can reach out to people, that what we see, the downfall and the degradation of values, how we can improve this. So the whole purpose of creating this series of podcast is to share information and give knowledge. So that's why I've asked you today to join us. So Maharaj, first question is that obviously, if you can please tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey, and then once you're done, then I'll ask you the next question.
First of all, Amangyana Jasya Gyanankana Shalakaya Chaturmidjam Yanatasna Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Bhakti Sanjiv Goswami Maharaj Shri Bhakti Nama Acharya Maharaj.
Jai.
Okay, so my journey to returning into Krishna consciousness, or meeting my Gurudev and becoming connected with Gaudiya Vaishnavism is rather a long one, really. I suppose it first started, but I'll try to go this very quickly. It first started when I saw a program on television when I was very young, maybe in my adolescence, and it was about Vrindavan.
Really?
Yeah, and this was way back in the 1960s. There was something about that, and also in my hometown. I remember very clearly. I was working with my father. This is again in the early 1960s on repairing a Methodist chapel. My father wasn't a Methodist, but he was a Catholic. But he was generally a very broad-minded and sort of liberal man in many ways, and had a very profound service attitude to life. And he mentioned about somebody called Sidney Evans, who had just come back from India, and about how they were talking about India, what an exotic place it was, and the sort of thing. And this man, Sidney Evans, was
he an actor, Maharaj? Sidney Evans, or was he a?
No, he was a doctor. He'd come back from Meghalaya. I'll just tell you briefly. My village in Wales, where I'm from, is a place of pilgrimage for Indian Christians, because there was a religious revival at the beginning of the 19th century in Wales. And they sent preachers to India, to some parts of India, to improve the life of people there. And they preached in Meghalaya. There's chapels in Meghalaya, Welsh chapels, and they sing Welsh hymns.
Big Christian community in the Northeast, yes.
Yes. And so that's how I got to know about India, when I was intrigued by India. And then, later on, years gone by, I heard George Harrison's music, and he had,
of course,
the devotees chanting in Oxford Street. And one thing led to another. I came to London. When I saw, before that, when I was about 17, I saw them chanting in Oxford Street. And they went past me like running. They were running, and so many crowds,
yes.
I couldn't get near them. Then later, after that, I was visiting London at the time. Then I came here in the early 1970s. That was about 1970, I think that happened.
In London, you mean? London?
Yeah, in London, when I saw that. And then in 1973, devotees came to my street distributing prashadam, but they didn't have any, didn't get the good fortune, they agreed to take it. 1978, I was working in the Soho Street Temple. There's Oxford Street, and there's Soho Street, and there's
yes, the one on the first floor. The temple on the first floor.
That's right. Then there's the street opposite. And I was working in a camping and mountaineering shop. I heard about this place where there was all you could eat food, and it was vegetarian. I was a vegetarian, of course. And I went in there, and I was working there for 3 months, and I wouldn't say I went in every day, but many days I went in. Then I'd all I wanted to eat, and off I went. But it never entered my head to go upstairs. The temple somehow didn't happen. And then prior to that, I'd been living in Cambridge Circus. Anybody knows London? There's a Charing Cross Road, and it goes all the way down to Trafalgar Square. And there's Cambridge Circus, like in the middle of it, halfway down. There was a block of flats there called 20 Mansions, and I was living there. And the Harinam parties used to go past my window every day. I was looking out from the 5th floor and seeing this. We used to call it the crocodile. They're going past chanting, you know. And I thought it was quite sweet. But then somebody went to the temple and said what he was all about religion, and I wasn't too particularly interested in religion at that time. I'm still, you know, a bit enmeshed in Maya, but they gave me some invitations to go to the Sunday Love Feast, as they called it. Well, I never went. And one thing led to another, but then finally, a friend of mine, I was in a Tai Chi association, and my Chinese master was in Coventry. I was following the 4 regulated principles at this time.
So did you say Chinese master?
Yeah, he was a Tai Chi master. Yeah.
Oh, Tai Chi, you were learning Tai Chi. Oh, okay.
And he was into health and herbalism and all many things. And there was one of his students there, one of my fellow students, and I knew her quite well. And she became a devotee. She became a disciple of Niskon Acharya. And she introduced me to Krishna consciousness, and she gave me a Bhagavad Gita. And prior to that, as a friend of mine, I had a market stall with, and he was selling some books. They were all Swami Maharaj's small little books, which, you know, like teachings of the Lord Chaitanya, perfect questions, perfect answers, things like this.
Yes. You mean Srila Prabhupada? Swami Maharaj? Yes, okay.
Yes, Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. We know him as Swami Maharaj. I don't know if he takes offense at that, but, you know, he's known by in different ways. And
yes.
And then after a while, I went to Coventry Temple of ISKCON, and that's how it began.
This is more. So let me ask you. You said you picked up Bhagavad Gita. You're reading at the time, right? So by reading, but what did I'm just thinking how to phrase the question. When you read Bhagavad Gita, what was your, like, did it have any effect on you, or did it sort of, you know, change your views in any way, or this very different philosophy, you know, normally like to the Western philosophy. So when you first read it, what was your impression? That's the question I'm actually looking for. Yeah. When you first read it, what was your immediate first reaction?
Well, I read the introduction. The time I read the first couple of chapters, I thought to myself, why didn't I have this 20 years previously? Or 10, 15, 20 years previously? It's what I was looking for. And as a consequence of that, and that was my reaction. It answered so many of my questions immediately. You have to understand, I'd been looking in my 20s. I'd been sort of associated with Buddhism a little bit. I knew about reincarnation, and I knew certain things.
Foundations. You had some idea about the Eastern philosophy. Yes.
It was there, and that was there. Even in my late teenage years, there was some kind of attraction. And I also had read everybody during the hippie period.
yeah, the 60s, isn't it? There was 60s, right? Late 60s?
60s, early 70s. Then
early 70s, yes.
Everybody read Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda Paramahansa. It was like de rigueur that you had to read that. You weren't part of the in-crowd, otherwise it is like that.
Yeah. And Maharaj, another book which comes across when I've heard a lot of interviews from the Western devotees is that Journey to Another Planets was another very popular book. Journey to
Yes,
Another Planet, I think.
that's another one. On coming back, there was that one, and there's a few others I had. One or two I've still got, actually. I've still got the originals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And,
Yeah, they're hard to get those books now. Yes.
then the Gita, and then it all went on from there. And then that was, I think it was about 1989, if I remember correctly. And
I mean,
I then then came across Chaitanya Saraswat Math.
so you got initiated in Chaitanya Satsang, am I right?
Yes, in 1996. But prior to that, in 1995, somebody told me I was looking for. I couldn't find anybody in ISKCON that I could be my spiritual master. I was looking for something really deep. I wanted the real deal. I wanted the acharya, the number one acharya, and there was nothing else. And I remember being very frustrated. And one day I came home from one temple, a ISKCON temple. I've been not going to mention details, names, or anything, but
Yes, of course.
But I was a little bit, perhaps I felt mistreated. I was very upset, and I couldn't find what I wanted. And I was very upset. I'd walked out of the temple. I'd had enough of the behavior of one or two individuals at this temple. I came into my flat, and I shouted up to the scene. I was angry. I said, "If you don't tell me where the parampara is, I'm leaving you. I'm finishing with you forever." Nonsense. And that's it. I wanted it. I wanted the real deal.
Really frustration.
I met one Prabhupada disciple who told me about certain things, and he didn't want to direct me to people in London. He was fairly, if he directed someone to SES Mott, he would get into trouble and all that sort of thing, whatever. So they told me there was a temple in Ireland I should go to.
Mm.
That was my introduction. Was the temple? It was a temple in Ireland, in Dublin, where there were devotees. From there, I got a hold of some of our Mott books. When I came back to London, I went to the London temple, which then was in East Ham, in a place called Gladding Road. And 1 year later, I was in Navadvip, and I was initiated by Srila Govinda Maharaj.
Srila Govinda Maharaj, yes, of course, yes. And Maharaj, just in brief, if you want to, obviously it's a personal question. Whenever someone embarks on something different, something new, or you would call it a spiritual adventure. Obviously you came from a very different background, so immediately you notice that obviously the family members, they react. So only if you want to share. How was it? Like very briefly. How was with the family? Immediately, what was the reaction then?
Well, most of them did know I was involved in Krishna consciousness.
Right.
They know I'm going to Indus. They know I'm involved in something. It just wasn't discussed. And my father is very, very profound Catholic, a very deep Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was like weird, was sort of religious, and she was religious. She got the mercy when she died. I was with her when I'd preached to her. I'd given her prashadam. And when she was in her death coma, I preached to her and told her about Lord to turn to Krishna. And she did, and there were tears running down her eyes. We're protecting you after you.
Wonderful.
And to do this, so it was very touching. I'm actually revealing something of just very intimate, really.
Of course,
that's what happened. So my mother was receptive. My father, we just, he knew, but we didn't discuss it because he's a profound Catholic. He wanted me to be a good Catholic boy. He wanted me to be a priest. When I was younger, they both thought I would be a priest because I was so. At least before my
you're very spiritually inclined, basically from very young age, basically, isn't it? To attract, yes. Yeah. My thing is because I'm also aware of the time. We got 30, 40 minutes, and I'm obviously very tempted to ask you on your later journey, but we'll stop here now because we will cover this in our next episode. Now, Maharaj, the reason, as I said to you, is I wanted to have this conversation is when you look around in the society at the moment, it's you just see not that there's always this battle of good or bad, or we call it the dance of the gunas are always going on, and we observe this. Now, the thing is, and again, I was reading somewhere that atheism is on rise, and a lot of people are agnostic, and so there are some people are just saying, what is the point of religion if we are happy as it is, we are being good, we are good people, so no, we don't need God, we don't need religion. So actually, before even I say why do we need religion, I want to ask you, what is actually religion according to you?
Well, it's encapsulated in one phrase, really, one sloka in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jivera Swarupa Hare Krishna Nitnera Dasa Krishna Tadasta Shakti Veda Veda Prakasha. The spirit soul is an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and must serve the Lord. That is his original swarup. That is the original tendency. But it's just covered by Maya, ego, mind, and the emotions.
So religion is to serve the Lord, of a soul to serve the super. If I can use the word super soul, to soul serve the super soul. All the activities are to serve the super soul. Whatever he does, that is in one sentence. Religion, the way we define it. Okay.
Yes.
And I will put the description of this in the I'll put a link to the description of the quote in the description box. So all our activities basically should be directed towards pleasing the Lord. Am I correct in saying this?
Yes, we should be following his instructions and his desires, and if we do, we'll be successful.
And we are happy, we are fulfilled.
We'll be fulfilled and we'll be happy. We'll feel that. In our hearts, we will feel the sense of fulfillment. That doesn't mean that there won't be difficulties on the way. The process of purification is like, there's an analogy drawn between ghee and butter, clarified butter and ghee. In the process of Krishna consciousness, we clearing out our anarthas, our unwanted tendencies and habits. And they come to the surface for the whole world to see. We can't hide who we are. Our failings, our faults, whatever. And the whole process, like you clear off the impurities from the butter, and you have the pure ghee. It's the same with the soul, purification of the heart. And you need to be humble and tolerant and merciful and give respect and honor.
That's the essential quality.
Essential quality.
Yes.
And we all must recognize that we have our own difficulties. And there's the failure in myself in the past, and maybe even the present also. It's difficult to see yourself, but is the failure you must understand is that there is Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada gave one book called the Sri Ishopanishad, and he laid great emphasis on that small shastra. It's only about 18 or 20 shlokas long. Mantra 11 tells you that you must study in order to progress in Krishna consciousness. You must learn the process of nescience and transcendental knowledge side by side to overcome the influence of repeated birth and death to attain immortality. And that means not only understanding, you brought this up, what's going on with the nescience, what's going on in the world, the ignorance and the degraded behavior, and it's quite frightening for a lot of people.
Yes. So I would,
but wait, you have to look at that you must look at the nescience within oneself.
Yes.
This is what's key.
Again, I'll put the link to the Srila Swami Maharaj's book into the description box if somebody wants to read it online. Maharaj, so
11 is in particular, yeah.
Chapter 11, did you say? No.
Mantra 11 is the
Mantra 11, the verse 11. Right, okay. Yeah. Maharaj, so what you've just said, and is that our constitutional position in this world we see around it is that to serve and to make the Lord happy. And can I say, well, in that case, I can say that all the degradation and corruption, so-called corruption we see in the society is turning away from that, or rather forgetting our constitutional society, because we have forgotten our, therefore we have forgotten our constitution, and all the corruption we see is because of that. So, well, I mean, I can discuss.
It's not just us saying that. It says in the Gita, and I knew you were going to bring this up. So, people want to read the Gita. They must read the Gita, like chapter 9, and you look at particular shlokas. And if I will just say them to you, Madhikshena Prakriti Suite Sachacharam Hetunena Kontaya Jagat Vipavarite. And that shloka says, that I am the all the illusory potency energy of Maya and Prakriti, the material world, is moving under my command. All the universe of moving and stationary things are moving under my command, and they manifest over and over again. He's in charge of the environment, transcendental world, and the so-called material world. Right? So then there's another shloka. It says, Avajananti mamudaha manushantanam ashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. This applies to the atheists. Most people in the world are not believing in God anymore. Right? And it's the truth. And not knowing his transcendent nature of his form of human features, they blaspheme him, they mock him, they ridicule him. And do not see him as the Lord of all beings. And they consider, to be mythological, or he's a mere mortal, or it's all myth. It's all just primitive superstition. This whole thing, religion. But then what happens?
Yes.
This explains it.
Yes, that's the important thing.
This is the crucial thing, because they reject God. This is the reason why everything is happening in the world as it is. I can remember it. Moga kasha karmano, moga gyanam vichetasaha. No, it's not Prakritim. It's, wait a minute, let me remember it. Prakshasima surim chaiva. Prakritim mohinim shritaha. What it means is that when they have this mentality, they have this attitude, all their thoughts, hopes, actions, knowledge are all in vain. Such persons acquire the ignorant and demoniac nature, which leads down to the downfall. And the more they reject, the more they engage in more and more degraded behavior, and they fall into the pit of complete nescience. And the fact of the matter is, people have to face up to the reality of what is the world. In his book, Raja Vidya, on page, I think it's page 44 of that book, Swami Maharaj, this is in the late 1960s, he's saying this. He states clearly that in that time, currently the world is governed by Rakshasas, so degraded they'll even eat their own children. The world is dominated, ruled over by them. That's how dark it is, and people don't want to look at this. They say in the papers, we've been recently, you have to talk about these as devotees. We want to be joyous, we want to be happy, but we have to recognize the dark side. Because it's there, it's in our face, we can't ignore it. The grooming gangs, the child molestation, all this sort of thing. It's all there, and it's so very dark.
Well, it's eating the children, isn't it? If you look at the if I can say that, abusing young children is like eating your own children.
Yeah, it goes on in the world. You can't ignore it. You can't turn away from it.
I mean,
those devotees, you have to see that those people are also, they're children of God, if you like. They are,
of course.
Krishna lives in the heart of everyone. It says on the Bhagavad Gita, Savrasya sani hridi sani vishto mata jnana mata. The one with one mata hridi jnana maponamcha. He lives in the heart of all living entities. I'm the super soul.
Yes, I remember that one. Yes,
I'm the witness. It's saying there, I'm the thoughts, I am the actions and the doer of everything, the forgetfulness and remembrance of all living entities. So they are souls. They're just so degraded. And when you look at the Leela of Jagai and Madai, Mahaprabhu saves Jagai and Madai. They're the criminals, the womanizers, adulterers. They're every degraded thing they are doing beyond belief. Drunkards, killers, they're dreadful, but he saves them. And that's what we have to do. We have to see that, and we chant Hare Krishna in the streets, Harinam Sankirtan. That is the main order of Mahaprabhu.
I think we will very nicely. We'll go into this, but not this time. That again, those profound questions that who am I? Because this is all related unless the inquiry doesn't come within us. That who am I? Why I'm here, and where I'm gonna go. So the thing is, these three fundamental questions, nobody's even asking. So I'm not saying nobody's asking. What I mean is, people are not really concerned about these questions. What they're concerned about is more about now, just enjoying the present. I mean, this is a very common, even my children say sometimes you only live once. So it becomes, but anyway, but Maharaj, one more thing I wanted to just take it on from here. Like, I've also read that when, because we obviously have a view on God, but from our point of view, I was also reading somewhere that when you face away or turn your back on God, then you just are like a pendulum between happiness and sorrow, just going from one end to the other, and that is the life. And you are trying to constantly find happiness, which is so elusive, and you wonder why there's no happiness in the life, why there's loneliness, why there's depression, why there's emptiness, this feeling of emptiness. I mean, I was just reading actually this morning that the depression in the West is it's awesome. So high. It's unbelievable.
Drug taking so much.
Addiction. That's the reason. That's one reason, is that they're trying to fill that void within themselves. So alcohol and drugs and so many other things. So yeah. So I think, as I said, for the next podcast we will do that. So I think let's what I would say is, it's been very nice, actually, a nice introduction to what you have said, and we will take it in the next podcast also, Maharaj. So we'll keep it short for now. So I request everyone to join us in the next podcast, next satsanga. It'll be very nice, and we will be asking some more questions. Who am I, and why I'm here, and where I'm going. So we're going to discuss this. I think we covered nicely today the basics, the foundation. And so thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Dandavats.
Dandavats to you, brother. Haribol.
Haribol. Sorry, Maharaj. Let me stop this.
Just one thing before I go. I just want to say.
Yeah, sure, Maharaj. Sure.
It's something that is very confronting on the dark side of the world and all that. The point is we as devotees live in a bubble. We're protected from it. If we just but chant and practice Krishna consciousness and compassion to all living entities.
Wonderful, Maharaj.
We're protected from all this, and we don't even think about it. It's inconceivable that it doesn't enter our lives. Actually,
yeah,
we're protected from it.
Absolutely, Maharaj. That's a very, very good point. That to protect.
But have faith in the Lord, protect us from these things.
Yeah, taking the shelter in the holy name is it's
the shelter of the Guru. Also.
Yes, absolutely, Maharaj. Absolutely. No, thank you very much. That's very, very nice, actually. And we will discuss again in this series. We will discuss Mahamantra and all the different aspects of our philosophy. Okay, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dandavats. Do you want to say a quick prayer before we finish, Maharaj, or are we okay?
Well, could do the Jai Devani, but what we just say?
Just Jai, yeah, Gurudev.
Gurave Namaha. That covers everything at once.
Yes.
Jai Srila Bhakti Dev Goswami Maharaj. Jai Srila Bhakti Acharya Maharaj. My two gurus.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Dandavats.